the first one we're going to look at is called the inner joins. So the inner join, or we call this is just join. Okay. If you look at this Venn diagram here, you see that you have two tables, A and B, is where those two tables intersect. That intersection is where the inner join comes in. This red area here is comprised of all the data, all the records that is shared by both tables. Okay, it only pulls those records out. Anything that's not match that condition, so in this case would be inside the condition here, then will not be pulled. So this is the condition here on the join condition. So for example, if I select this, this is the films table and B is the actors table. So what do we have in common, right? So I'm going to pull all the records from those two tables where they have a matching ID and the film's ID, because I have a lot of actors and not all actors are in the same movie, right? Some are not. So I don't want all the actors that are not belonging to, let's just say, My Fair Lady's movie. So there could be only 2 or 3 or 10 of those people that were portrayed or played in that movie. So I can only grab those records, right? So this is what the join does. And the syntax is right here. So select. So anything here in the brackets here means it's required, right? Just by convention, usually if you see a square brackets, that's optional. Anything here is enclosed inside a angle brackets, or without the brackets is all required. So in this case, everything here is required if you want to join those two together. This is what's called a explicit join, explicit inner join. We said that because I'm saying the keywords here, inner join or join, and then the second table followed by the on and so on. So we have select, the list of you want to select. Remember that when you join two tables, you're able to pull all the table columns from both tables. Okay. If you put a star instead of the select list, you put a star here. That means it's going to pull both all the columns from both tables, and you see a lot of columns fields. And then from the first table is really important here, the first and second and third and fourth and so on. The first table here is always referred to the left table. We'll see that later when we do the outer join. This becomes more important. So the table on the left or first is always the left side, and then followed by the join, either a inner join or outer join or left join, right join. And then the second table is on the right table, right side. Okay, so when we see other diagrams, you see that becomes really important. So in this case, again, they should have probably modified this because the word inner here is really optional. So they should have modified that. So the word inner join, you could just use the word join, and that's fine too. It's understood. Okay, if you use join, it automatically means inner join. Okay, so that's the inner join. So if you go back to our example here, and if you look at the diagram we did earlier, okay, I don't have that anymore. There you go again. But so we have, let me just do here so we can see. Select from the films, right, and also do the select from actors. Okay, so I just want to see what's inside. So I can see that they have 3 movies and then 2 of those actors. So Rex and Audrey were in the movie ID 1, which is My Fair Lady, right? So they are related in that situation. And these 2 tables here in this case are related by the film's ID. Okay. In here it happens to be that the ID for the table, each table is the same as the film's ID. I could have created such that the film's ID are completely different from the ID here, but this film's ID is not the same as the ID for this table. So the ID for that table is just used as a primary key to identify or to keep track such that that entire table is unique. Okay, so you can sort, search in that sense. So if you want to join this table, so usually you should say, oh, I want to say, you can say select, if you put like star and then from, so the first table, and the way you write your statement, you do it in many ways. Some people like to do it this way. Some people like to do it like each command, each keyword on a separate line like this. If you like it this way, that's fine too. You can say from the films table, and then join the actors table, okay, on, and then you can do that if you want. Sometimes it's easier for you to see that way. Some people do that. Some may even do this way. You can do like at a separate line, you tab like this, okay, and then so that way if it's easier for you to see that way, that's fine too, because you can put that in. There's no limit on how many lines you put until you reach the end of that statement, and SQL Server will know where to end. Okay, so I can go back. I'm going to go back and leave it as it was before, because it's much simpler for me this way. So from films, and as we have more data in here, then we can move this down. Okay, so that's the first table. And then we'll put the inner join, again here, the inner join, the word inner is optional. So join the actors table. So where do they have a connection, right? You can connect any fields that you want. It doesn't really matter what field. It doesn't have to be the key for those tables. As long as those that condition match, it will pull those records. If it does not match in that condition, then nothing gets pulled, right? But usually, by convention, or usually when you build your database, you usually connect through that related records, or columns. So in this case, it will be the film's ID. Okay, so you can say where the films films is it ID? I can't see my. Oh, I'm sorry. You need the keyword on the front. Okay, on. Let's do it again. Films ID equals the actors dot films ID. So as long as those two columns match, then it will pull only those records. Okay. You have to specify the table name because it's from different table. I cannot just do this, right? It's because it's ambiguous. It does not know from which field it is. So you have to use the word qualify them. Okay, using the two parts. This is a one part, two parts, and three parts. We have 4 parts in a complete and a fully qualified object in SQL Server. So you have the server name, the database name, the schema, and then the table. Okay. So now if I do this, and if you run, or if I can do all of them, it's fine. You see that the tables are now connected to those two fields. In this case, I have pulled everything, right? It will compare the ID in this first table. So the first is ID 1. The film's ID equals the film ID in the second table. Does that match? Yes, it matched. So it pulls Rex record. Okay, that's how you get Rex record here. And it will keep looking for this ID. So it will look for first ID. It will find the entire table here for every ID. If it matches, pull those out. So it will go through one at a time, pull all 3, and then 2 or 3 don't match, doesn't match anymore. So it move on to the next ID. And then it do the same thing. It would look for matching ID, pull those out. Okay? So that's what you see. You have my field ID, and then 3, and then 4, because they're all matched in here. If I have another, films in here that doesn't have a different ID, then it wouldn't match. So that will not be pulled over. Okay. So usually when you do this, it gets, and this one it's fine because my namings are really short, right? Films is pretty short. But if it gets really long, like in the adventures work table, you see that has a lot of name, right? Imagine you have to type this in there, okay? So when you have something like this, then you can use a table alias. We learned about alias, right? You can see that we learned about the table stuff for the columns. So I could say, instead of saying films, I could use that just the letter F for films, and the actors can take the letter A for actors. Okay, as soon as you do that, you see some red curly lines. That means that I have to change everywhere else that says films to F, and then everywhere else actors to A. So it shortens that table name so you don't have to type the whole thing. And not only that is true, also when you specify in here, if you want to put only certain columns, you have to also use the alias name with it too. So again, if I execute that, you get the same result. Now you see that I don't want to, show the ID and the film's ID twice, right? So you just say, I just want to show maybe the film's ID, movie name, and then the actors. So I could say here, you can restrict that, right? You can say instead of the star, I want to select just the film's ID, the film name, and then we just say first name and last name. Okay? And then now you see that there's a red line under the film's ID. If you mouse over, it says it's ambiguous column named film's ID. And that's because it exists in both columns, both tables. So you have to specify which table should I pull this from. In this example, it doesn't matter which one. It's the same one. So you can just say, I just used the film's column. And that satisfies it. Okay. And these are, you don't have to because they're unique, right? They're unique because if you look in both tables, it's only in the films table. This is in the actors table, so they're unique. But you can still go back and just say from the film's name and then the actors. And actually, it's safer to do this way. It's safe because you make it so that it's always coming from the actors table, and then just in case, right? That you don't have to. If they're unique. If they're not unique, then you have to qualify with the correct table. So now if you run this, it should still be the same, but except you don't have the other columns there anymore. So now I only show what I want to show, and I'm good with it, then I'm good, right? You can sort it just like we did before. After this, you can sort by say order by first name. Again, first name you can say okay, so if you run this again, it will sort by first name. To do it, not the film. I see. Yep. Oh yeah, I think first name is not part of the it's not part of the F, right? It's the A. It's part of the author and it doesn't belong to the film. So now it's sorted by the first name. And you can put here also the where clause, right, if you want to. So the other rules apply. After you join it, you can also do the filtration. Filter out only the pieces you want, in addition to what you already you match here. So again, you can just put join and it's understood. So that should still work as well. So again, we're just grabbing the parts that are common, right? So let's go back and view those two tables again. Okay. If I happen to say, film's ID equals the if I say like films maybe year made equals film ID over here, then of course it's not going to match, right? because there's no, the year does not match in the ID here. It just means you can do it. It's just that you return a 0 result. It's just there's no matching there. Okay, so just be careful when you do the condition. Just make sure you pull the correct fields to match them up.